Is it possible to manage over 500 partners in the tech world while also officiating championship level football? Well, today we meet Carl Berry, who does just that. And today we're going to dive into how Carl marries the world of tech with the discipline of sport to drive success, both on the field and in the cybersecurity arena. And with insights on everything from multi-cloud networking to the strategic use of generative AI, Carl will offer a perspective as unique as his own personal career path. So what can the high-pressure decisions of football refereeing teach us about leading in technology? Let's find out. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can sit down with myself and Carl Berry to talk about all this and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, good afternoon, Neil. And firstly, thank you for having me on your show today. First and foremost, I'm a husband to Laura and a father to 4 daughters, so very outnumbered, Poppy, Grace, Maya and Molly. And I currently live in Hampshire. But from a career perspective, I'm F5's Northwest EMEA Channel Director, responsible for 11 talented channel managers across my region. And I've been here for just over 2 years now.
Fantastic. Sounds like you've got your hands full there. 5 girls.
Very outnumbered.
Yeah.
So I made sure when we had dogs, Neil, that one of them was at least a boy. So I've got a go-to.
Well, over the years, we've had a few people from F5 on the podcast. Dan Woods, someone I remember in particular, had a great conversation. But for anyone that's missed any of our previous conversations about F5, can you just tell everyone listening about F5, its mission? Because I recently saw the business expanded your distributed cloud offering too. So can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Be a pleasure to. And it's a tough act to follow, Mr. Woods. He's a great presenter. Yeah. So look, F5's mission is to secure, deliver, optimize any applications and API, making it ridiculously simple. That's the mission statement. That said, it can be hugely complex and pretty daunting at times. So I suppose to add to that, therefore, as a channel team, I requested when I first joined, we hold ourselves accountable for this mission statement. And we actually created our own sub-charter as a framework, which at its core centers around passion, motivation, determination to deliver a service we believe unrivaled in the channel. And importantly, to simplify that very complex message and understanding the use case and not leading with technology will support our partnership motion. But as you said at the context of the question, you correctly indicated F5 is expanding its distributed cloud offering, which is hugely exciting. And the driver is AI. And it's continually accelerating the growth of applications and the APIs that connect them. And our added solutions simplify the protection of today's distributed applications and enable customers to safely apply AI solutions through those API codes into one single platform, which goes back to that initial point of how can we make this ridiculously simple? And it was interesting. You mentioned that, the cloud offering and you saw it. What was great for me is that on the 5th of March at London Atworld, we got to deliver this in person, and how we have missed this. I know everybody has, but since COVID, this was the first large event that started in San Jose in February and is moving across the globe, and I think is in Germany in a couple of weeks' time. But to be able to deliver that and have that conversation with our customers and our partners at World in person was absolutely fantastic.
And outside of that, if we just go back into your personal world for a few moments, before any of my guests come on here, I always do a little bit of research, and I kind of came across something that you're a championship level referee. So I've got to ask, tell me a little bit more about that. And how does a championship level referee find themselves as a channel lead within a cybersecurity company? How do you manage balancing these two roles? I feel like there's a huge story here.
It's a great question. There's probably a few stories on Google with Carl Berry, the referee, as well, Neil, if you were to look carefully. But being a leader within cybersecurity and a championship referee was always going to be demanding when balancing the two. but it consistently sparked great interest when people found out that I supported the referee more than the two teams playing. Very frequently, who's your team? Who do you support? What do you think of the match? Well, you know what? The man in the middle, that's the person I was supporting. But to come to your question on the balance, the midweek fixtures were probably the most challenging. And I actually remember refereeing, I think it was Bolton Wanderers versus Huddersfield. So a bit of a derby.
Yeah.
And I had to leave home at 1 p.m. to ensure a 5 p.m. arrival, because unbeknownst to many, I had to be there 2 to 3 hours before the actual start of the fixture. And I'm on my car on the journey north from Hampshire. I'm on numerous calls, as you should expect. But upon arrival of the gate to the ground, the Coalbury, the Channel Director, shifts immediately to Coalbury, that Championship referee, where the people at the gate don't care what I do for a day job. They care and they're passionate about this guy has to be in control of this fixture. So you're thrust into communicating with stewards, police commanders, secretaries, managers, the media, Sky were there, etc. So that transition was instantaneous. So that took me a while to get used to, and what people's expectation was. And I talk about expectation, and post-match, I think it was Dougie Freeman at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, he actually went to the media and he stated he felt I had a poor game, which is absolutely in his armory to suggest that to the media. But what he also said is that he had complete empathy for the conversion of all referees that are doing their day job, whatever that may well be, suddenly thrust into a game that, it's huge magnitude of that particular one was in the Championship, but whether you're doing League One or League Two. Now, all referees now in the Championship are full-time, but yeah, having those two roles, and I owe a lot to people around me for supporting me on that journey and almost going on that journey with me to create what I wanted to be, which was if I'm honest, a Premiership referee, but didn't quite get there, but ultimately ended up at the Championship level now.
Oh, well, I'm a long-suffering Derby County fan, so I've got to ask, any particular memories of a Derby County game? Anything stand out to you?
Do you know, I do remember doing Derby County versus Brentford away. I don't think I ever did you at the county ground. Is it the county ground? Is it still, or is it Pride Park?
Pride Park now.
Pride Park. But yes, I did referee you against Brentford in the Championship, but unfortunately, from my recollection, I think we lost 2-0. So I hold my hands up and I apologise in advance.
Well, moving swiftly on, I've got to ask, were there any particular skills that you were able to gain from refereeing that actually apply to your role now? Because I would imagine there are a few unexpected synergies there.
And that's probably one of the most frequent questions I get asked, and it's a really personal one. And the top level answer is there are many, many skills that can be transferable from football refereeing, not just at the Championship level, but League One, League Two, moving up through the ranks to today. And I try and condense it to 3, and I call it 3 C's, probably because of my age. It's a bit easier to remember. But the first one is probably not of any surprise, but communication, and is talking really to the players, to the managers. But what people sometimes forget at that level is that your assistant referees and your fourth official, you may have only met those individuals 2.5 hours before that fixture. So you're about to go into a game, 20, 30,000 people maybe at the stadium, and you've never met the man or the lady that is on that sideline with you and talking to you consistently through the microphone in different, not so much different languages, but they will have their own nuances of what they should say at what particular time. And you've got to tell them before that game of what your expectations are and bring them on that journey with you, but empower them and make sure those instructions are clear and answering any whys. Because I'm a firm believer in that if you want somebody to do something, if you can preempt the question back and answer why, even if they like it or they don't agree with it, they will come on that journey with you. But empowerment is really important in a communication style. And if we've got time at the end, I'll talk you through a great situation where I could have done a better job of that and maybe got a different decision in a very quite high profile game. But the second one I move on to is consistency. Again, we hear a lot about this in the footballing world, but we can certainly bring that into the world that I am in today. In the refereeing world, it was difficult because consistency is about opinion. A lot of time within refereeing is what do I think of that situation? It's not always black and white, and different perception will give a different level of consistency. But I think bringing that into the world that I'm in today is having a consistent approach across the Northwest and becoming very uniformed is very, very, very important. And the last one I touch on, which I think is transparency from my perspective, is confidence and not arrogance. The way you conduct yourself at the earliest point of that engagement. And I'm not afraid to share my vulnerabilities. More often than not, I'm certainly not the smartest person in the room. So bring in the experts around you. How can you enrich your performance, both within refereeing and within my world today? You sure you do your research? How many people go into meetings without doing research? If they do their research, it's at the last minute, the last hour. You did your research on me, you found out I was a referee. It creates conversation. It's the same in the refereeing world. Do your research on the teams, the way they play, some of the players. Don't prejudge, but to be pre-armed is really important. There's one incident when I went to Southend very early in my career, and I knew the manager. I heard, because I do my research, that he'd invite you into his office prior to the away team arriving. He would know when they're about to arrive. So he would invite you in 10 minutes before, have a 15-minute conversation, and ask you to leave politely just when the away team are coming in. And the away team were thinking, what's the referee doing in the home team's manager? Very psychological. But unless I did my homework, I wouldn't have known that was to happen, Neil. So I made sure I avoided that particular situation. But they're probably three of the highlights I'd come to.
Wow, so many golden insights in your answer there. And another big topic throughout the industry right now is AI being used to defend against attackers. It's also being used by the bad guys too. But I'm curious, what trends are you seeing in the industry right now? Whether that be AI, whether it be something completely different. I'm curious what you're noticing and what the key trends are that you're seeing.
Yeah, sure. AI is certainly one of those. I suppose what I'm going to bring to front and centre of mind, we just completed H1 here at F5 and been through various QBRs over the last couple of weeks, reviewing what we're seeing and what we're looking forward to. And one of the overwhelming senses of communication that came from various teams across the Northwest was the sweating of assets. This is a real trend we're seeing at the moment. I mean, our channel partners are continually leading counsel on, for us, big IP, modernisation, and to ensure the future vulnerabilities are highlighted, and to initiate time-bound schedules and budget cycles as early as possible. But we are seeing the customers taking more and more risks and defaulting to that. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just going to leave it 3 months, 6 months. So that sweating of assets we've definitely seen. And the other thing that we saw was actually finance and the financing of opportunities and CapEx versus OpEx. And what we did see was we normally see financing of the multi-million-dollar deals, but we saw a large increase in financing of opportunities that were about 100,000 to 150,000. Haven't really seen that trend previously, but I think that's where the channel and distribution can really support and engage and show that value in supporting companies when they have these finance challenges, to make sure that they have the most up-to-date IT topology in their infrastructure. And the very last thing we saw was just the final day rush. We saw many, many targets, many amounts of millions of dollars of business that were transacting just the last 2 to 3 days. So it's almost, again, that sweating of assets, leaving things to the last minute. There are some of the trends I've seen away from technology in the last 3 to 6 months now.
And I'm curious, from everything else you're seeing there, what would you say are the best performing technologies and indeed markets this year? Are there any services and technologies that channel partners are seeing more in demand of at the moment? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a varied and wide question. I think app and API market remains in hyper acceleration in my mind, but at the same time brings a range of complexities and risks with that acceleration. So as a result, I've experienced growing demand for a shift from probably your traditional web application firewall, your WAF, and people migrating to the web application and API protection, which is the WAP. And these solutions can secure the modern application. So that's definitely one of the performances we've seen in 2024. But I have to say the Northwest Channel has been instrumental in this respect and driven a significant number of WAP opportunities for us. So I thank you to my channel. And customers are realizing that an API-driven approach to application protection enables improved collaboration between the network, security operations, and developers. And these teams I mentioned generally work in silos. So having this approach supports that simplified path without compromising, I suppose, innovation and the overall customer expectation. And it also supports, I suppose, to my earlier point, in terms of budget allocation and those silos, bringing it together, bringing the team together, it just simplifies the outcome. And I think the last point, if I may, is really this multi-cloud networking that we've been talking about for many years. And I expect significant opportunities over the next 12 months and beyond. I think it's always maybe been I'd like to have that. That sounds the utopia. But people are now bringing that into this is what we need. And this will be driven by the need to manage and secure applications and APIs across multiple cloud networks. People think they have one cloud. They have multiple clouds. And therefore that just lends itself to being extremely complex. And I truly believe F5 stands out in the market to simplify and to hopefully innovate in this space. But they're some of the top performing trends I think I've seen in 2024. And I don't think any of those are going away.
And I think as we all scroll down our news feeds every day, we all see those stories of AI, tightening of budgets, multi-cloud, sustainability, ESG scores. It's all very familiar now over the last 6 to 12 months. But I'm curious, were there any technologies or markets that you found provided unexpected growth this year that people may not be aware of or think about?
Oh, that is a good question, Neil. I don't think there are any huge surprises, but I'm unsure if that's down to good planning on my behalf or the tough market conditions. But I think I'll take the former. That said, that one vertical which stood out in terms of growth, which I must admit I was not expecting, was retail. I think with the pressure on household spending due to inflation, this is not an area I expected for that growth to be seen. But I think with more customers looking at shopping online as opposed to in person, that customer experience and digitalization, the requirement for security in applications has enhanced somewhat to create that customer experience, which has fueled that growth. So I think if I was to pick one growth area that I was not expecting, I'd be sure to pick retail.
And we've mentioned AI a couple of times. I was reading about a huge Amazon investment today and behind the makers of Claude AI. But how has the explosive emergence of all things generative AI, if we use that umbrella term, how has it impacted both your and your partners' work? Because I was going to a lot of tech conferences last year, and there was a lot of businesses sat on the periphery thinking, what we're going to do here? There's a lot of nervousness around it. But what are you seeing here now?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think Gen AI was last year's hottest topic. And however, it's quickly becoming a topic higher on the agenda when considering deployments, as companies are keen, I think, to turn discussion of Gen AI's potential into action and capturing its benefits. So again, I suppose it's like the multi-cloud networking. Rather than talking about it, they're seeing actually what this can do to generate more top-line revenue for my business. And one thing I saw at AppWorld, actually, which was presented, was the pace of adoption, which you mentioned for Gen AI, has been astounding. When you think it took Google Translate nearly 2,500 days to reach 100 million users, and Instagram just short of 1,000 days, but it took ChatGPT less than 100.
Wow.
And that just shows the astounding scale and speed of what we are all just trying to keep up. And as AI accelerates the growth of applications and the APIs, which I know I've spoken about a lot, but that's what connects them. And F5 is bringing that API code and testing and telemetry and analysis to distributed cloud services to empower the customer to make better informed decisions. And I mean, as an example, a customer may want to understand, how many SQL injection attacks did they receive last week? Well, to find that out is very, very challenging. But using Gen AI as that powerful tool, it makes it very time sensitive, and therefore the customer again is making better informed decisions. So I think for our partners to be working with this, they've got to demystify, they've got to understand it. But I also see that they will be able to generate more professional service revenue because it's still the unknown. And piecing that together, I think the customers, the partners that are ahead of that adoption curve will come up as very successful.
And I think last year there were so many concerns, such as things like company data being used for machine learning algorithms, and many from the outset just banned employees from using it. But it kind of amused me a little because we've kind of been here before with the whole bring your own device to work kind of thing. You can try and stop it all you want, but you're like that little boy putting his hole in the dam trying to stop the water. It's going to happen sooner or later. So what more can the channel do to embrace AI, do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said, Neil. And I think your key word there is embrace. It's embrace it or be left behind, which I know is very simple, but also pretty black and white. But I think you've got to look to, I said this to my team last week, demystify and decipher the technology. But first, you've got to demystify. You've got to understand it as to how it can support the business. And I think once you can do that from a partner perspective, you can then speak to customers again about the use case, whether it can create top line growth or it can save them money. And don't talk about the technology per se. That's what customers are interested in. And I think today we have a lot of dedicated point product security solutions. And they each solve a very specific security need. But now most of them are starting to leverage, as I see it, this Gen AI to enhance their effectiveness. However, most of these products work on their own silos, with their own visibility, their own tool sets, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that complexity is ever increasing. And with the complexity and the short supply of technical expertise we have, that leads itself to, again, even more challenges. So my underlying message is, you put it very eloquently, it's not going away. Let's endorse it, demystify it, understand it, and then let's select where we can best use it.
Well, so many golden insights from you today. I absolutely love chatting with you. Learned so much about not only your work, but your backstory as well. So many. I think that's almost an episode on its own that we could return to. But before I let you go, I always like to have a bit of fun with my guests. And I'm going to ask you now, if we've got a Spotify playlist, I always ask my guests, would you like to leave a song to add to that list? But all I'm going to ask you is, what would you like to add to it and why?
Always the trickiest question is the last one, Neil. I would, to be honest, unashamedly, it's on the football school of thought here, the referee, that unbeknownst to some people, you had the teams generating loud music in their dressing rooms. Well, us referees, we had our own little radio as well, and we could use Spotify and whatnot. And I always had a song that I would put out 5 minutes before walking the teams out, and it was actually Elbow, One Day Like This. And I just felt that it gave me a uplifting sense of well-being, wanting to be there, wanting to go and execute without some drum and bass making me feel a little bit too hyper. So my direct answer to your question would be Elbow, One Day Like This.
Oh, wow. I've got to add that straight to the Spotify playlist. I've got a little history of that myself, because that's that song we saw Guy Garvey sing that, my wife and I, at the Other Stage and the Pyramid Stage at the Glastonbury Festival. And it was a huge part of us. It was like those long, hot summer nights. I loved it so much. It was played at our wedding and everything as well. So, yeah, absolutely great choice. I'll get that added to the playlist for sure. And for anyone listening, just want to find out more information about all the work you're doing at F5, where would you like to point everyone listening, especially if they want to contact you or your team as well? Yeah,
absolutely. Look, it's an open door policy here at F5. So please just call the central number in the UK, ask for me personally, and I'll be happy to pick up the phone to anybody that wants to get in contact. And if I cannot support, because as I said before, I might not be the right person, I'll certainly put you in touch with the correct personnel within F5.
We covered so much there, from the best performing technologies and markets, and the technology or markets that may have received unexpected growth last year. But I think what brought it all to life was your origin story. And I think in nearly 3,000 episodes, this is the first time we've talked about the parallels between refereeing professional football and managing over 500 partners. You brought it to life beautifully. But thank you for sharing your story today.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Pleasure to be here.
I think today's conversation with Cole Berry has illuminated a fascinating synergy between the worlds of professional sports and technology leadership. And Cole's journey from the football field to the forefront of cybersecurity with F5, I think this underscores the versatility of skills like integrity and elite communication, ultimately proving invaluable across seemingly disparate arenas. And as we reflect on the growth areas that Cole highlighted today, such as retail and the adoption of generative AI, I'll turn the microphone over to you. What are your thoughts on integrating diverse experiences to enrich personal development and technological innovation? Please email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes. Share your views with us and join the conversation on how diverse backgrounds can redefine industry standards. But as the full-time whistle goes, it's time for me to get out of here now. So thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. But thanks for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.